Good morning, Professor Alvarez. My name is Peyton Eanes, and for this presentation post, I have chosen the topic of being brain dead. To start off this presentation, I wanted to ask you a question. I found this question on the Johns Hopkins Medicine website. It states, a woman lies in a bed at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. Aided by a ventilator, her lungs inflate, deflate, and fill again. Her heart beats and her skin is warm, but her eyes stay closed and she does not react to stimuli such as pain and light. Is she alive or dead? Initially, this question troubled me a lot because I didn't really understand completely what being brain dead meant. But after a lot of research and a lot of reading articles, I think I finally understand. Brain death is the irreversible loss of all functions of the brain, including the brain stem. It can be caused by tumors, bleeding in the brain, diseases, or severe head trauma. Whenever someone is declared brain dead, they have to run lots of tests. They can't just look at someone and say that they're not displaying any signs of life, so they're dead. They have to check for their reflexes, such as their gag reflexes. They have to shine light in their eyes to detect if there's any eye movement and to make sure there's no brainstem reflexing. If all of these tests fail and the person does not respond to any of them, they can legally be declared brain dead, which also means that they are legally declared dead. As mentioned in an article by Wired, 47% of the U.S. population did not know that when someone is declared brain dead, that they are also legally dead. So to answer my question initially, the woman in that scenario would be considered legally dead because she was unresponsive to the tests that they performed. The brain is a very complex and interesting organism. Without it, we cannot properly function, and when it stops working completely, so do our bodies. As discussed in an article by Peter Pressman, being brain dead is completely different than being in a vegetative state. Although both can be caused by severe head trauma, a vegetative state can be reversed by a slight chance. However, when someone is declared brain dead, there is no chance of reversible, and they are legally dead. While the book doesn't specifically talk about being brain dead, it does give the reader a complete overview of all the parts of the brain and how they each work individually and then come together to help us function. Every part of the brain has a purpose, but we can survive without certain parts, such as the frontal lobe. However, we cannot live without the brainstem because it is what makes our heart beat and our lungs air intake. The destruction of the brainstem will cause a person to become brain dead, which is an irreversible state. The reason I chose this topic was because of the immense confusion on what being brain dead really means. Knowledge is extremely valuable. It is important for people to know and understand medical terms. If you do not truly know what being brain dead means and a doctor asks if you wanted to pull the plug on a loved one, you would immediately be insulted and heartbroken that the doctors have given up on them. However, when properly educated on the term, you would know that there's no chance of recovery for your loved one and that they're legally deceased. I learned a lot of new information in this chapter, and especially from the articles. I was really unaware of the great controversy surrounding this topic and was amazed to see the different perspectives of several families that told different stories of losing their loved ones. When it came to the book, I was in shock when I read about the various parts of the brain and all of its functions. I knew that the brain was complex, but I did not realize how many different parts that all came together just to do simple things. The most interesting thing I was taught today was that doctors can't just say someone's brain dead, but they have to run a lot of tests. And there's specific laws in place to tell them what standards they have to meet before making that declaration. Just by reading the definition of being brain dead, you see that it's an irreversible condition where you're legally considered dead. So initially, I thought that the plug should be pulled immediately on anyone who's considered brain dead. I thought, what's the point in wasting valuable resources in doctors that could be helping other people who are still alive? But once I continued reading and stopped looking at it as like a straightforward black and white subject, my thoughts began to evolve more. Reading all the stories of the various families who have gone through the trauma of losing someone to brain death really opened my eyes about the subject and made me realize how many different opinions there are about how to handle this. Looking at the McMath and Munoz families, you can see that they had two completely different perspectives on the subject. The Munoz family did not want their daughter taken off ventilators because they had hope in a higher power that would heal her, while Mr. McMath did not want his wife to be put on ventilators because while she was alive, she said that she would never want that. However, the Texas hospital she was residing in refused to take her off of the ventilators because she was pregnant. Both families had their own reasons for wanting their loved one to be on or off ventilators, and in the end, it really should be up to the families. After reading and hearing all these controversial stories of families who have experienced the loss of a loved one because of brain death, I realized how important this topic is. Many people don't understand the subject, and it needs to be talked about and taught about more. While it's okay to have different beliefs on the topic, it's never okay to shame others for their beliefs, especially when you don't have all the information. To simply summarize what I've learned from my research, brain death is an irreversible condition, and it ultimately is death. It is a widely misunderstood and controversial topic. It can be caused by trauma to the skull, tumors, various diseases, and bleeding in the brain. Everyone handles brain death differently when it comes to a loved one, and without proper education on the subject, it can be easily misconstrued and miscommunicated. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation today. I greatly appreciate it.